Neil and I have to
I
cut
already
out
told
of
him.
this. Okay, at 6:45. We have graduation festivities.
Nothing but mazel for you guys.
We'll watch you on YouTube after.
Good.
A quick hello to my grandparents who are here.
Oh, nice.
Esther and Sandy Abramowitz.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
And my dear friend Edie from Cantorial School. Sorry, Rabbinic. She's in the Rabbinic School in Cincinnati. She's waving as well.
Are your grandparents living in California?
Yes, they're in California.
Oh. Hi, welcome.
Thank you.
Dan, I assume people have complimented you already, but that was a great letter. It was beautiful. It was amazing.
I appreciate it very much.
That letter was wonderful.
It really was wonderful.
Yeah,
Right.
I appreciate it. Look, I'm grateful every day that I can write a letter like that to a community that will have that kind of response.
Right, but it's
Dan, I
we
also want to
appreciate getting
say
it.
it was
It
wonderful.
goes both ways. It feels good.
I appreciate that for sure. And obviously this is a biased suggestion, but if you're looking for other things to read, my dad wrote a piece that's on the Times of Israel blog, which is infinitely better than what I wrote. And in fact, some of what I quoted, from him is the story that he shared in that, but told many times. But I appreciate it very much, guys. And
yeah, no, it was great. It was...
And a Shabbat Shalom to all of you, and a welcome.
Not too many compliments; it'll go to his head.
Of course, to keep me, reasonably in check. I think it's a big part of the job.
Well.
Excellent at it, by the way. So a Shabbat Shalom welcome to all of you, and a special Shabbat Shalom welcome to all of Cantor Emily's friends and family who have jumped on as well. We're thrilled to see and to have all of you with us. And certainly, as you can imagine, and I'm sure all of you are feeling, that this is a Shabbat that we come in with pretty heavy hearts. So we're very lucky that we have Cantor Emily with us, because I think one of the great joys, at least what I get to look forward to every week, as I'm sure you do, is a chance to not just do Shabbat, but to do Shabbat in the most beautiful way possible. And that really is ultimately what this is all about. So at this point, I'm going to mute everybody, because it's always fun. And then I'm going to unmute Cantor Emily. Cantor Emily, are you unmuted?
All set. Can you
Excellent.
hear me?
So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'm going to put the spotlight on so everybody can see you, and hopefully everybody can hear you. And just one little aside, which is that the Cantor is going to also, as you can see, she's very talented and has a backup singer behind her.
Yes. You might jump in and say hello, everyone.
Correct. Is also going to experiment with a little bit of piano playing tonight. And the only challenge we ran into when we were testing things out is that everything is on one table, and as she's playing piano, the video is going to move a little bit. So if you're the kind of person that might get motion sickness, that might be a good time just to avert your eyes just a little bit. But there are only a couple times of the service, and the music is worth the potential of people getting a little bit nauseous. But we'll manage that when we get there.
We'll figure it out for next time. It was an unforeseen.
Exactly. We learn every week. That's part of the deal here. So. Cantor, I think we're going to start either with candle blessing or with our opening, whichever you prefer.
Yeah, I think let's start with the candle blessing. And
great. It's on page 120 for everybody following along.
All right. So I have candles right here. If anybody wants to light candles. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner Shel Shabbat.
Amen. All right, we're going to turn now to page 128 as Cantor Emily leads us. Hine Matov.
Hine Matov umanayim shevirachim gam yachad. Hine Matov umanayim shevirachim together on this day. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. Hine matov umanayim sheberachim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim sheberachim gam yachad.
Okay, we're going to turn now to page 130, Lechu Neranana.
Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena Adonai. Naria, naria, letzur yishenu, lekadma fana b'toda. Naria, naria, letzur yishenu, bizmirot naria lo. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai.
We turn now to page 131, Shiru Ladonai.
Shiru l'Adonai, shiru shir chadash. Shiru l'Adonai, kol haaretz. Shiru l'Adonai, shiru shir chadash. Shiru l'Adonai, kol haaretz. Shiru l'Adonai, baruchu shemo. Basru me'om le'om Yeshuato. Shiru l'Adonai, baruchu shemo. Basru me'om le'om Yeshuato.
We now turn to page 132, or Zarua.
There we go. Or zarua latzadik, uleishre lev simcha. Or zarua latzadik, uleishre lev simcha. Or zarua latzadik, uleishre lev simcha. Or zarua latzadik, uleishre lev simcha.
We turn now to page 134, Zamru Ladonai.
Zamru l'Adonai bechinor, bechinor v'kol zimra, v'chatzotzrot v'kol shofar. Hariu lifnei hamelech Adonai, Yeron hayam umlo. Tevet צדק לעמים במישרים. ירום היום ומלואו, תבל ויושביה, נחרות ימחאוך ויחד הרים ירננו.
Turn now to page 135, Romamu, the last Hebrew paragraph in the middle of the page.
רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו.
We turn now to page 138, L'chadodi, and we're doing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. 1, 2, 5, and 9. You'll follow along.
לחדודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לחדודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לחדודי דודי, לחדודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לחדודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשמו תפארת ולתהילה. לחדודי דודי, לחדודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לחדודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו בניך, כי היא מקור הברכה, בראש מקדם נשוכה. סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לחדודי דודי, לחדודי לקראת כלה, פני ושלום עטרת בלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי, דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה.
We're going to turn now to page 140, and we will start at the top of the page, Mizmor Shir, and then we will also do Tzadik Katamar, right where the Hebrew indents in the middle of the page.
I'm ready. Mizmor Shir le'yom haShabbat, tov lehodot l'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. Mizmor Shir le'yom haShabbat, Mizmor Shir le'yom haShabbat, tov lehodot l'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. Mizmor Shir le'yom haShabbat, lehagid baboker chastecha, be'emunata baleilot, alei asor v'alei navel, behegyon bechinor. Mizmor Shir le'yom haShabbat, tov lehodot l'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. Mizmor Shir le'yom haShabbat.
Okay, and then we're just a little bit down the same page, page 140, Tzadik Katamar. Give Cantor Emily a second to get her guitar. It's not so easy to manage all these things. You're doing wonderfully.
Thank you. Tzadik Katamar yifrach ke'erez bavanon yizkeh shetulin bebeit Adonai, bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrihu. Oyenu von veseva, deshenim berananim yiyu lehagid ki yashar Adonai suri velo
We now turn to page 145. In place of the Chatzi Kaddish tonight, two special readings. Teach me, O God, a blessing, a prayer on the mystery of a withered leaf, on ripened fruit so fair, on the freedom to see, to sense, to breathe, to know, to hope, to despair. Teach my lips a blessing, a hymn of praise, as each morning and night you renew your days, lest my day be today as the one before, lest routine set my ways. Entrances to holiness are everywhere. The possibility of ascent is all the time, even at unlikely times and through unlikely places. There is no place on earth without the presence. We turn to page 146 for the Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach
We turn now to page 148, and we can read together the blessing in English at the bottom of the page. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzvaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening.
Umavir yom mevei laila, umavdil ben yom mevei laila, Adonai tzvaot shamo, El chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed, Baruch ata Adonai,
Baruch Shemo.
Ha'ma'ari v'aravi.
Amen. We turn now to page 150, Kihem Chayenu, which is about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's about 6 lines up in Hebrew from the middle of the page.
So we learned this last week with my now ex-roommate Jen, who is one of my fellow cantorial classmates. So it starts with day and night with the English. Day and night, show us the way, teaching us to number our days, when we rise and when we lie down. Ahavad olam, ki chem chayenu, ve'orech yameinu, uvahem neged praise when we rise and when we lie down. Ahavat olam.
Beautiful. We turn now to page 152, Shema.
Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod, Shem Kevod, Malchuto Leolam, Leolam Va'ed.
Page 154, Ve'ahavta.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, Adonai Elohechem Emet.
Turn now to page 157 and we read together this particular prayer, which we say every week, or introduction to a prayer, I should say, feels particularly poignant in a moment like this. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together.
Here we go.
Page 150.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש. נורא תהילות עושה Sur Yisrael, Kuma Bezrat Yisrael, Ufadechinu Mecha, Yehuda v'Yisrael, Go Aleinu Adonai Tzvaot Shemo, Kedosh Yisrael. And now we turn to Hashki Venu. I seem to have lost my pick, so we'll go from there. It's all a matter of figuring these things out as we go, isn't it, folks? Alrighty, here we go. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Try that with me. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu. Hashkivenu, Leshalom. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Veshameru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Ayin, 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 beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam. Ki sheishet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz ubayom hashevi Shabbat, Shabbat vayinafash. Oh, Dan, you are muted. Rabbi Dan, you are muted.
Weird.
There you go.
That's strange, the spacebar thing that was working before. But anyway, at this point, we're going to invite those that would normally rise or are able to rise for the Amidah to please do so. As we always do, we begin with the words on page 164, Adonai Tzavatai. And tonight, Emily is going to share with us, I think, a different melody. And then, as always, we then continue silently and we go at our own pace. And when you're finished, to be seated if you are. And we have a special treat to help bring us out of our Amidah tonight.
Adonai Sfatai. Oops, sorry. Excuse me, give me 1 second. Go back. Adonai Sfatai Tivta Adonai Sfatai Tivta Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha Adonai Sfatai Tivta Adonai Sfatai Tivta Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha.
So, guys, as I mentioned before, we have a special treat to help us come out of the
Rabbi Dan,
Amidah.
we can't hear you again. I don't know why.
Still can't hear me? Can everybody hear me now? Yeah? Are you?
Oh, maybe it's just me.
Ah. Well, try that again. Emily, can you hear me now? Nothing? Okay, we're going to try to figure this out. Give me 1 second.
But we hear you completely. Emily,
You're
you're the only one.
Okay, so that's a good sign. Um, so in any case, Emily's going to share screen, and she has a video that she and some of her classmates at the Debbie Friedman School of Sacred Music, part of the HUC school that ordains rabbis and cantors. And so hopefully this will work. She's going to try to share the video with us so that we could all watch together. That sound right, Emily? You still can't hear me though, so we'll see how that goes.
Sorry, friends. I am working on screen sharing.
Text her.
Yeah, she's there we go.
There we go. Okay. Great. Can you all hear this?
May the one who makes peace in the highest bring peace upon us and upon all the earth. May the one who makes peace in the highest bring peace upon us and upon all the earth. Oh, say shalom, shalom, say shalom, aleinu, aleinu, le'akol Yisrael, le'akol yoshvei tevel, ve'yiru, amen.
Okay. So, Cantor Emily, let's see if we can hear you now. That was beautiful.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Mazel tov. We did it.
Technology.
Okay.
Technology, man.
Technology man.
Glad to hear you.
Absolutely. So, we're now just we're gonna focus our attention on healing, which is always an important piece. But as we talk about, there certainly is healing of the body. But as our introduction to this prayer usually goes, it is also more than that. It is the body, it is the spirit, it is the soul, it is the community. So I think especially appropriate, Emily has chosen a really beautiful piece for us to use tonight. So Emily, I'll turn it back over to you.
Yes, so there has been one piece that's kind of been circling in my head for the past few weeks as we moved from one moment of a lot of pain and a lot of people hurting in various ways to a new movement and an opening and an openness of an awareness of racial prejudice in our world. And this Misha Berach, tonight we'll be doing Nachamu, Alana Arian's Nachamu, which we have frequently started our service with, but it only felt right that this was our Misha Berach tonight. So most of you would know this by now, so please join along. Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami Yomar Elohechem, Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami Yomar Elohechem, Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami
Okay, thank you, Cantor Emily. You can take a much-deserved little bit of a break here, and I'll just turn the spotlight back to me. There's me in HD, which is always a little overwhelming at first. So, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. And again, just as I said at the beginning, but reminder, just a welcome to all of Cantor Emily's friends and family who've joined on, and classmates. I think we even have Agnes on here, I'm pretty sure, which is great. And for those that are not members of our community, you may have received an email from me not so long ago with some certain reflections on the current state of reality that we are all sadly facing. I think that letter encapsulates in a pretty deep way how I am feeling coming into the Shabbat. And I appreciate already those that have written back and said that it was meaningful to you as well. But given that, I also want to share a teaching that emerged actually from an earlier class from this morning, in fact, from a class that I teach on Pirkei Avot. And I want to just put the text in front of us so we have a chance to contemplate it. And as just an explanation of what is Pirkei Avot, it is a section of the Mishnah, which is roughly dated to about 200 CE. The Mishnah being a codification of a collection of what had been up until that point a largely oral tradition, a Torah basically to go along with our Torah, traditionally sort of understood as when Torah was given at Mount Sinai, it was given in a written form, which is called Torah Shebichtav, and it was given in an oral form, which is called Torah Sheba'al Peh. So Torah Sheba'al Peh is sort of a euphemistic term for this body of sacred literature that we refer to generally as the Mishnah and the Gemara, known together as the Talmud. So this section of writings is distinct from a lot of the other parts of the Talmud, which are largely focused on halacha, on Jewish law, and on Agadah, which is sort of the interpretive body of sacred literature of the Jewish people. The section of Avot is a third category, which is often referred to as wisdom literature. You may, if you've ever studied, for example, the works of the Far East and some of the great writers and thinkers of the ancient eras, this kind of literature may seem quite familiar. It's meant to be, generally speaking, attributed. In other words, a particular rabbi said something, and it's meant to be instructive about how to live for lack of a better term, a pious Jewish life. So even though there are certainly parts of this book and this collection that have not stood the test of time terribly well, or that need a certain amount of reimagining or application in a modern time, a lot of it is actually quite timeless wisdom. And this particular section has stuck out to me, as I'm sure you can imagine, rather strongly in these last few weeks in particular, but quite frankly have been a part of the conversation, at least in my mind, for some time. So I'm just going to focus on two little sections here. Luckily, this is a really wonderfully accessible part of our sacred literature. This website that I've been using and that many, many people in our field have been using in the Jewish world, called Sefaria or Sefaria, has on it virtually everything that you would want to study in terms of Judaism. And it has an excellent English copy of Pirkei Avot with some certain translation challenges. So I want to start with the first text here, which is highlighted. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, so hopefully you can see it fairly clearly. Everybody see it okay? Get a nod? So, Evu Zihirin Barashut. Be careful in your dealings with whomever the ruling authority of the time may be. She'en makrivin lo la'adam ela letzorech atzman. That you need to be very careful of them, because ultimately speaking, they're not going to befriend a person except when it serves their own particular needs. Nir'in ke ohavin bishat na'atan, right? When it is in their interest, ve'enom din lo la'adam bishat dachko. Okay? But they do not stand by, in this case, they translated it as man, but Adam is really humankind, right? People. They do not ultimately stand by people in the hour of their distress. So certainly we can understand at least a little bit of where I'm coming from when I'm thinking about the ruling authorities of our time, and some of the concern that ultimately results from the behaviors that we have seen from our leadership, not just at the top, but certainly at the top. about priorities and about purposes of the words that we choose and how we choose to use them. And in particular, in the last few days, really, a couple instances stick out to me. And one of them is I'm not taking it personally because it's not for me to take personally, but I take it personally. When the president of our country chooses to disperse a peaceful protest, to walk across the street, to stand in front of a church that is not theirs, and to hold the Bible up as a prop, at the very least is disconcerting. At the very worst is an attack and an affront on any religious person who lives on this planet or has ever lived. And I mean that even though I'm saying that in hyperbolic fashion, that's how it felt to watch that take place. And this is Rabban Gamliel, who is writing in the period of time in which the Romans are their overseers. He is cautioning about the quickness with which we can sometimes hitch our wagon to the promises of those in power, believing that they are going to follow through on their promises. But we must be cautious, he teaches us, to look beyond the simple, look beyond getting the pat on the head or the cookie or whatever it is that tries to convince us that we're getting a handout of some sort that's going to make us feel good, and to look beyond it. Because more often than not, when we are promised things, they ultimately don't manifest because they come into conflict with the personal desires of those in power. And while we may be thinking of the person in power right now, Gamliel's warning exists throughout time and in almost every circumstance. Now, to be clear, there is a dangerous slippery slope of following this to the point in which we cease to trust any authority. It is not a question of who the authority figure is. It's not a question of authority in itself. It's a question of, again, looking beyond the simple and asking ourselves, in the moment of crisis, in a moment like right now, are the people that we look to for leadership showing up? Are they going to stand by, or are they going to stand with? And I think that it seems clear to me that our current leadership, our current authority, is going to stand by, and not just stand by, but quite frankly, to find ways to further alienate, divide, punish. And it should be deeply concerning to each of us, as it was deeply concerning to Gamliel in his time. I want to skip down a little bit further to a continuation of his line of thinking, in which he also quotes from his teacher, from Rabbi Hillel, one of the great rabbis of Jewish history. So Hillel says, and this should be a somewhat familiar phrase to you. If you've never heard it before, then I probably failed in my charge. Al tifrosh min hatzibur. Do not separate yourself from the rest of the community. Do not separate yourself from the rest of the community. Do not, especially in a moment of crisis, decide that you are going to step away for whatever reason it might be, preservation of your own life, your own property, whatever it might be. Be very cautious about that natural human tendency to retreat and to separate. Clearly, that we have seen the experience of separation in this country that continues to this day, perhaps in a different form. And what ultimately happens when we have people who are separated, perhaps not in the same way that they were 100 years ago or even 80 years ago, but still separated by invisible walls of injustice. We cannot allow ourselves to exist in a world in which some have and some do not have. Some get to interact and some do not. It's an unacceptable piece of Jewish law. It is an unacceptable piece of this American law as well. Now, he says this is another conversation for another time. Do not trust in yourself until the day of your death. We'll put that aside for a moment. But the next piece I think is quite important. Do not judge your fellow person until you have reached their place, until you are standing in their shoes, so to speak. If you've heard that phrase before, it is borrowed from this concept. And we take this simply. We use this phrase all the time, but it's actually very hard. And one of the things that I tried to point out in my letter is that I have spent the last couple of weeks really trying to fight my instinct, which is to speak, right? To get up on the soapbox and start talking. And the problem is when we do that, we also don't listen. And the listening right now is key. We have to listen so that we even have the basic modicum of possibility of understanding what it is and what it has been to be a member of the African American community, to be a member of any minority community in this country or around the world. Those of us that perhaps have not had that experience in one form or the other need to pay a special attention to listening and to hearing and to understanding before we rush to a judgment. The next piece is also important. Do not say something that cannot be understood, trusting that in the end it will be understood. What does this mean? Don't take messages lightly. Don't make assumptions about what people understand and what they don't understand. Part of the challenge that we face as a country, that the world faces in dealing with the concept of racism, is that we leave too much unsaid. We leave too much to be assumed. Even those of us that perhaps, whether we are correct about this or not, would identify ourselves as people who have been fighting for civil rights for years, we may not even understand ways that we have inadvertently been basically doing the opposite or not doing to the greatest effect, because again, we're too busy talking and not enough listening. And if in the end we take an assumption that we really understand what it's like, or that when we say things that it's going to be understood, that there is certainly a danger, and that assumption is deadly. And the last piece, which I think is key and is expressed in many ways in Jewish thought throughout time, but seems especially important right now. Say not, when I shall have the leisure, I shall study. Perhaps you will never have that time to study. So I would just replace the word study in this case with the word act. Right? Don't say that when the moment is right, when everything lines up, when I have time in my schedule, when I can make a point to do this, thing called, civil action and social justice work, that it will all fit into place. If we wait for that time when it is perfect, it will never come. That in precisely moments like this is the moment to walk into the breach, right? Not to stand on the sidelines. Now, I understand at a time like this, and trust me, the thought occurred to me as well, participating in what is going on in the streets may not be viable for each and every one of us for lots and lots of different reasons. You do not have to be on the street protesting in order to raise your voice. You do not have to be on the street in order to call your representatives and tell them that the way that this country is behaving is unacceptable and we will not accept it going forward. You do not have to be in the streets to reach out to those in other communities, especially those that are most directly affected by what we are seeing right now and what we have seen throughout time, and tell them that you want to help, but you need guidance. But whatever you decide to do, whatever it is, big or small, don't wait on it. Don't wait on it. Don't wait until things are ideal. It won't happen. Or if we wait until that point, so many more lives will be lost. So much more destruction will take place. We cannot wait any longer. Part of the reason that we are still dealing with a problem that is thousands of years old is because in every generation, we have said it's not the right time, or we're not the right people to do it, or this isn't the right political landscape. Baloney. Enough. It's not an acceptable answer anymore. I've gone back and forth on this, but in some ways I am thankful, right? One would say that to be dealing with this disaster while we are dealing with another disaster is overwhelming. It's paralyzing. That's one way to look at it. But the other way to look at it is we're going to deal with this all right now. We're going to deal with the body. We're going to deal with the virus that is potentially hurting our bodies, and we're going to deal with the soul. We're going to deal with our collective soul, and we're going to address this in a real kind of way. And I don't want to oversimplify this. And I know that there are many people from various backgrounds, various political views, various party affiliations, all of those things. None of that matters anymore. Right now is not the time for division, not the time at all. If we are not going to get the unity from the top, then we bring the unity from the bottom. The waiting time is over. The time for action is now. I ask each and every one of you to consider even one way that you can act, one thing that you can do from the safety of your own home. I guarantee there are ways, and if you don't know, then reach out. Reach out to me, reach out to Cantor Emily, reach out to other people that you know. Find a way to get yourself involved. The sheer number of us, if we actually act together, is overwhelming. It is overwhelming. But if we wait on the sidelines, then we will be back in this same conversation. Could be next week. It is not acceptable anymore. So I hope that you receive these words with the intention behind them, which is not to chastise by any means. None of us are free from guilt in this. It is more to inspire in the same way that I was so inspired by watching these young people organizing and walking and marching all over the world, and what we had even here in Sag Harbor. So With that, I wish you all a Shabbat Shalom, and we will stop the screen share. I will turn it back over to Cantor Emily, who is going to help us with Aleinu on page 586. And Emily, the bima, so to speak, is yours.
Wonderful. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latei kedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kegurei haratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chalkeinu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam, va'anachnu korim, ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה Adonai echad, u'shemo echad.
Before we offer our mourner's Kaddish tonight, I'd just like to read a reading on page 595 if you'd like to follow along. It is hard to sing of oneness when the world is not complete, when those who once brought wholeness to our life have gone, and naught but memory can fill the emptiness their passing leaves behind. But memory can tell us only what we were in company with those we loved. It cannot help us find what each of us alone must now become. Yet no one is really alone. Those who live no more echo still within our thoughts and words, and what they did is part of what we have become. We do best homage to our dead when we live our lives more fully, even in the shadow of our loss. For each of our lives is worth the life of the whole world. In each one is the breath of the ultimate one. In affirming the one, we affirm the worth of each one, whose life now ended brought us closer to the source of life, in whose unity no one is alone, and every life finds purpose. I'll now invite those who are in mourning and those observing yahrzeit who choose to do so to rise at home. We think first of those in our community of past and recent months: Nancy Fisher, Saul Fisher, Sandra Friedman, Meyer Osofsky, Vera Shaps, Lisa Schneidman, and Norma Small. We also mark the yahrzeit that occurred during the last week for Sylvia Bohm, Tilly Danoff, Sadie Egelfeld, Dallas Ernst, Harry Friedman, Molly Goldstein, Ruth Gonzer, Anna Harris, Irving Heller, Libby Kamenkow, Samuel Koffler, Peter Kump, Donald Kyle, Meyer Levine, Amy Marin, Edith Miller, Bruce Norton, Gerald Ostro, Morris Raff, Solomon Raff, Jerome Rinder, Richard Rube, Alice Rubin, Willard Schwartz, Joseph Shapiro, Sarah Florence Simon, Jeffrey Spanier, Sophie Tatcon, Rachel Waldman, Lila Woloshin, and Solomon Zweig. And just as Emily mentioned before when we did the Bisha Barach, if you have names of anyone else that you are remembering tonight and you want to enter their names in the chat, we will remember all together as we turn to page 598 for the mourner's Kaddish at the very top of the page. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, v'agala v'zman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach le'alam u'li'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei dekudsha berichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shalom araba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imramav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Zichronam Libracha, may every one of their memories be for a blessing. Okay, please be seated at home. Okay, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. So I just want to, first of all, again, thank Cantor Emily for a wonderful service and for all of the technological challenges. She always just seems to respond to it all with big smiles. So hopefully, you can see everybody, put it on gallery view so that everybody can see you. And
Thank you.
really, thank you, Emily. So let me I'll turn this back over to me so I can see everybody. Just so a few announcements. The first is that we will be having Shabbat services tomorrow morning, beginning at 10 o'clock, live streamed on YouTube, Facebook, and now also on our webpage. Pick whichever one you'd like. If you happen to be watching on Facebook or YouTube, I'm told to tell you there's a like button somewhere or something that resembles a thumb up. So give us a thumbs up if you can. You have 5 stars on Google for whatever it's worth. That's something.
That's great.
In any case, and of course, tomorrow we are very excited since it's the beginning of the month that we will have our Torah study using the Torah, a women's commentary. And this month will be facilitated by Judy Hollander. And just a reminder to everybody, in case you were curious, long story short, there is sort of back-to-back readings of Parshat Naso in order for the Reform movement, which follows the rules of Israel, to match ourselves back up with the rules of the diaspora. So basically, it's 2 weeks in a row of Naso, but split in half. So hopefully that made some sense to you. The main piece is to please join us for either Shabbat services or Torah study, or ideally both. And hopefully you got all the information. If any of our guests did not have it, let Cantor Emily know. I'm sure she'll be happy to pass the information along. We would love to have you back anytime. We're very, very excited to have you here. A few other things to note coming up. Tomorrow evening will be our first attempt at doing a Havdalah service, albeit a little bit earlier than it probably would be, 7 o'clock. Originally, we had sort of planned on this being something of a Zoom and having people pre-register for it. At the moment, only 2 people, I think, pre-registered. So I'm thinking maybe to move it to Facebook Live. But in any case, all the various ways that you will get access, just look for an email from me tomorrow and I will tell you where it's going to be and how it's going to be. But it will be 7 o'clock tomorrow. And it will be throughout the rest of the summer and perhaps even further than that, we shall see. Social Justice Committee will have its weekly meeting on Monday at 5 o'clock on Zoom. And as always, just a thank you to all of our volunteers, to Andy and Alyssa for their remarkable leadership. And just a reminder that the work still is ongoing. So if you are able, if you've already helped out, you can continue. That's wonderful. If you haven't had a chance yet to help out, that's wonderful. If you have any questions about it, please let me know and I will put you in touch with Andy and Alyssa. But really, again, a genuine thanks to everybody who's already done so much. Also, as you hopefully have seen, we're starting to get our summer programming in gear. More things to come. But just a reminder, I have classes on Wednesday at 7 o'clock and a class on Friday mornings at 9 o'clock. Both of them do require just a quick pre-registration. So let me know if you're interested and I'll make sure you know how to do that. Also, a reminder, on Thursdays at 11:30 is Jill Ehrlitz's gentle yoga class. Also, in recognition of Pride Month, normally we would be able to have a speaker. I'm hoping that we can still find something to do before the end of the month in that way. But we also wanted to let you know that the Reform Movement is actually providing, the CCAR specifically, and part of their human rights campaign is providing a free opportunity of learning and engagement titled Pride Inside Where Pride Dwells, an interfaith discussion and celebration of LGBTQ spirituality with LGBTQ leaders. It's an open dialogue with Jewish, Muslim, and Christian faith leaders and LGBTQ activists. And it's going to take place this Thursday, June 11th at 8 p.m. And we will send a registration link for everybody on Monday who is interested in joining. So again, this sounds like an amazing program, and these days especially, take advantage of everything that is being shared. And we will still find a way to acknowledge it here at the temple, but we wanted to make sure that you didn't miss out on this great opportunity of learning. Last piece, at least on my list, is looking ahead to June 14th at 11 o'clock will be the next book group with Ruth Joseph. So if you're interested in joining the group, if you haven't already, and it's a wonderful, wonderful thing, please email Ruth directly, Ruth E. Joseph, all one word, at yahoo.com for more details, or let me know and I'll be happy to put you in touch with Ruth. Last thing is just a reminder, as soon as we're done here, we'll pull this Zoom down and hop on our virtual Oneg, which is a slightly different thing. we hope that you'll be able to join with us, and I hope very much that this Shabbat, and really through Cantor Emily's beautiful leading and teaching and singing tonight, that we are going into this Shabbat, I hope, with a certain elevated spirit, and that we emerge out of the Shabbat ready to work. That would be my my final word on the matter. So I'm going to turn it back over to Cantor Emily, who's going to give us a closing song, and then we will do Kiddush together and wish each other a Shabbat Shalom.
Yes, and
Cantor, take it away.
We're going to be doing, do you have the page number, Rabbi Dan?
Yes, 643.
Perfect. So tonight's closing song is Gesher by Yosef Goldman. And this piece talks all about how the world is a narrow bridge and it's our job to not be afraid. And I really feel like that's a message that we all need to take very much at heart right now, whether it be the world is a street and a protest, or the world is a website where you're educating yourself, or a book that you're reading. There's so much going on, and we just have to remember to not be afraid and come together. So here is Gesher. Kol ha'olam kulo gesher tzar me'od, kol ha'olam hu gesher tzar, kol ha'olam kulo gesher tzar me'od, kol ha'olam hu gesher tzar, kol ha'olam kulo gesher tzar me'od, kol ha'olam hu gesher tzar, kol ha'olam kulo gesher tzar me'od, kol ha'olam hu gesher v'ha'ikar, v'ha'ikar lo לפחד כלל, לא לפחד, והעיקר, לא לפחד כלל, לא לפחד. כל העולם כולו גשר צר מאוד, כל העולם הוא גשר צר, כל העולם כולו גשר צר מאוד, כל העולם הוא גשר צר.
Yeah, Jeremy, that was beautiful. Beautiful way for us to get ourselves ready for Shabbat, and we're going to rise if we're interested and able, and if you have any wine or grape juice handy, we turn to page 123, Kiddush. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon inchilanu zikaron lemase v'reishit ki hu yom techila lemikrae kodesh zecher letziat mitzrayim ki v'hanu v'achartam ve'otanu kidashtam mikol hamim ve'shabbat kodshecha ve'ahava u'ratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen.
L'chaim.
L'chaim. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thanks for being here, being a part of this. Have a great rest of your Shabbat and weekend. Thank you to all your friends. Anybody who'd like to join us on the Zoom Oneg, we'll be there in a few seconds. All right?
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thank
Shabbat
you to my
Shalom,
family and
everybody.
friends.
Thank you.
Shabbat shalom.
Wonderful.
Love you, Em.
Love you too, Grandpa.